Welcome to Networking RX, a podcast devoted to helping business professionals like you enhance your networking skills in order to become more proficient giving and receiving quality business referrals and improving the overall quality of your life and the lives of those around you. The Networking RX podcast is a production of AmSpirit Business Connections, an organization whose mission is to empower business success through networking.
I remember when I was a kid, I grew up in a little town, Houghton, Michigan, tiny Houghton, Michigan, about 4 hours north of Green Bay, just across the pond from Canada. We were way up there. My dad was a college professor, and he was very involved in athletics at Michigan Tech University. It's a big hockey school. It has a D1 hockey program, very well known for its hockey. And so he was always interacting with the hockey players. And I remember at one point there was a graduation party for one of the players, and my dad was hosting. They had lots of family in town, and we had a place that hosted well, and so was good for hosting a party, I should say. And so the hockey players are coming in. Of course, I'm a young kid. I'm probably 10 years old at this point, and I'm starstruck by all of these hockey stars, if you will. And I remember one player coming in and just saying, it made a comment to me about girls. And my response to him is, whoa, I'm 10 years old. I'm like, I don't like girls. I don't do anything with girls. And he looked at me, he says, that'll change. And you know what? 3-4 years from that point in time, maybe not even that, it changed, right? All of a sudden it clicked in my head. I like girls. And it was like magic. And I guess the lesson for us all is humans, we are hardware. We have this software running within us, and to a degree, we don't have control over lots of things. I like girls. Some people don't, and some boys don't, and I get it. I'm not getting into that, but there is scripting there, it was just there. But we also have software that's set in motion by our environment. So my relationship with money is a little different than somebody else's relationship with money. My dad was a college professor. We didn't make a ton of money, and through the years, I've dated women who or parents were corporate executives, and they had a hell of a lot of money, and so their relationship with money was different than mine. We had different programming there. So we have lots that's going on in our lives, and those sorts of that programming comes into play when we have relationships. And again, I'm dating women whose parents had lots of money. It's a different relationship. We have different things, different views. My wife's family, for example, they do a lot of yelling. They don't get mad at each other, but it's, hey, get up and do some dishes. And they mean it in the most loving way. But until you realize that, it's like, oh my God, these people are yelling at each other. They're almost violent, and they're anything but. But we have this programming, and it's all there. It impacts our relationships. So today I have on the program, I have Mark Mathis with us, and he is the creator of the Reset program, and we'll get into that. But first, I want to welcome you to the program, Mark.
Well, thank you very much, Frank. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you very much for having me.
You heard the build up there. I mean, I'm watching you. The audience can't see. I guess people who will see a video piece of this. You're kind of shaking your head, right? I mean, I don't know what you know, but I know that there's something controlling me beyond. I think as humans, we like to think we have free will.
Yes.
And to a degree we do, but to a degree we don't.
You're absolutely in the both cases. You're absolutely right. Is that we have these thoughts that we have in our heads, and we've got 50 to 60,000 thoughts that we have, and some people have more, some people have less, but in the majority of people have about 50-60,000 thoughts.
Is that a day?
A day.
Okay. Yep. All right.
And these thoughts are based on three things. One is our programming from our environment, our parents, our society, progress in a certain way on their belief, on their stuff. The first one is programming. The second one is the conditioning. The conditioning is like we're every day doing the same thing. We're conditioned to think a certain way. The third one is the beliefs that our parents have that been transferred over to us as well. So these three factors in our lives control our thought process and our free will, because we believe in things that really don't belong to us as a human being, but has been transferred over to us, and we start believing in those beliefs.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. I guess let's start out, and towards the end, I want to talk more about how people can get a hold of you and how how they can engage in the Resetted program. Um, but can you give us, I guess, your history and how you stumbled on this and how you became interested in this?
Well, it's a story that started 20 years ago, Frank. I had a problem with my health. I was diagnosed with sleep apnea, severe sleep apnea. I stopped breathing 54 times of the hour. So I
Oh,
was never sleeping. I never slept that, in my past, I haven't slept in a complete 8 hours. And they gave me a machine to regulate my air intake. And that night, I plugged it in. I slept 8 hours for the first time in my life. I never slept that well.
mm,
And what happened in my body, there's something in my body where my energy level went up, because I've been in the fight or flight mode since a long time. So, and something happened in my brain, is that when I looked at myself when I was shaving in the morning, I did not recognize myself. And what I realized is that all my thought process, all the stuff that I was telling myself before, that I'm not good enough, you can't do this, you can't do that, all the stuff that we bring, all the programs and conditions that come up, they were not there anymore. And I said to myself that morning, I said, wow, this is, I felt so amazing, so well with myself. I said, there's something there. I've got to find out what happened to me. So that's where I started studying the brain, because I wanted to find out why. So the first thing, we know this, the brain that we know we have, but what does it really do?
mm,
So I started the mechanics behind the brain, the thought process, where does it go, how does it go, and all these things that brought in, and that brought me into two different sciences, which it brought me into the neuroscience field, where I found out that in one of my neural pathways, the one that I had before getting the machine for my sleep apnea, it was running. And then when I got my machine, it's like something reset it. And so it changed into pathway, and that pathway became a new way of looking at life, a new way of thoughts, a new way of attracting things in my life. And so I studied neuroscience, and that brought me into the quantum energy field. In the quantum energy field is that our thoughts have an energy attached to it. And what I was doing in my programs and conditioning before my reset, I was attracting that in my life. So everything that I was saying, I'm not good enough, I can't do this, I can't do that, I don't make money, I don't have the relationships I want, all these things, that is exactly what I was attracting in my life. When I had my reset, that process stopped completely.
mm.
So I wasn't saying I'm not good enough, or I don't have a good relationship, or I don't make money. I was in a state of who I was. So what I call today is the state of presence. The state of presence is the absence of our programs and conditionings and our beliefs. So that brought me into studying the quantum energy field. And then after 5 years, I started, oh wow, I can teach this. I found a way to teach this to other people. And I was very lucky in 2016 here in Montreal, because I'm from Montreal, Canada. I was invited to do a TED Talk
Mm-hmm.
on my research on how we can change our lives in a fraction of a second. See, we in our thought process, everybody was telling me, "Oh, you can't do this, or you can't do," it's hard to change. But in reality, once you understand the programs and conditioning and how to get into your state of presence, it's really easy to reset. And that's what we teach, is that we teach you how to do it on your own, so that you're free to do your stuff that you need to do. So these
Interesting.
are all programs and conditions that you can reset.
It unrelated but related, I guess. When one of my children was really small, a toddler, had a infection in their mouth, and so they were just in terrible pain. Wasn't sleeping. We couldn't get them to take whatever Advil, aspirin, whatever the liquid they have for infants, because it would hurt the mouth. It would spit it out. And we went to the doctor. We were beside ourselves. It's like day 3. We're not sleeping. They're not sleeping. And the doctors, we just give them some Advil or whatever, acetaminophen, whatever, doesn't matter. And we're like, well, we can't, and won't take it. He said, well, just inject it in the rectum. Like, what? So anyhow, I know this is unrelated, I know, but related, and I'll get back to that. We're dealing with this the next night, and my wife's like, screw it, and she, gave the immediate acetaminophen, the aspirin, the liquid, anally, and it did what it did. It made the pain go away. Our child went to sleep. And that was the turning point. That was the reset in that situation. And then the body was able to heal itself because it got rest.
Right.
And in my, again, unrelated, but sort of related. It's like, you do this one thing to turn the tide, and that changes everything. And it sounds like that's what this machine did for you. That's not your process necessarily, but it allowed you to kind of get ahead of the issues. Otherwise, you were kind of caught in a riptide, if you will. You were caught in a.
Yeah, exactly, Frank. I was in my 50, 60,000 thoughts that I had.
Yeah.
All these things that were controlling my life. And what I realized today is that I was trying everything under the moon to stop that. I'd go, I want to learn things. I read books. I did all kinds of things. I did courses, and nothing real. It changed a little bit, but it still comes back and bites you. And when you're trying to change things that don't belong to you to change, it's very hard to do.
Yeah.
And when after my machine, and once I realized that I have the power inside of me to make that change, that's where everything changes for me.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's kind of what I was saying earlier. It's like we feel we have this free will, but we really don't. I mean, if we totally had free will, you would have said years and years ago, stop, right? I'm changing this, but you couldn't for whatever reason, because there was this scripting that was.
Yeah, the dialogue that we say, the dialogue that we receive from other people, that became our truth.
Right.
So the truth is not really ours.
Yeah.
So and we're making choices based on information that's has nothing to do with us. But we continue going on because that's what we've known. That's the program. It's like a computer program running. You're trying to change it. You're trying to modify it. You can't change it because it's the original program. You have to reset that program to make the change. You have to write a new program.
Gotcha. All right, let's this is a podcast about relationships and networking. Let's kind of look at this from the standpoint of our relationships. And I don't know what you're in Canada and United States, divorce rates 50%. Listening to you talk, I'm thinking to myself, I'm shocked it's not higher. Right?
Yeah.
Because you have two human beings with different programming. Some people are just totally on the same page, but totally different programming. I'm just astonished it doesn't go bad more often than it does.
Well, I think it does. It's just that they're not getting divorced because
okay.
That's the measurement. But
yeah.
Relationships, it's like two people talking to each other. One is talking in French and one is talking in English. Now, there are preliminaries that you're going to see. You get along. Yes, it's fine. But there's still communications based on what they went through as a child and what you went through as a child. Now, I'll give you an example. If your spouse has a problem with weight because of a program and conditioning, and then we put more, or we say something about their weight, what they do is they get triggered, and then that becomes the result of the programs and conditioning.
Right.
Because when we gain weight, most of the gain weight, there's always some program or conditioning attached to it. It
Right.
could be the programming of the food industry. It could be the programming of the way that men and women look at each other. That could be one. That could be, there's a multiple programs and conditioning. So it's like we're trying to talk the same language, but it's not working. We try to do it. But when the result is that when you have two people in the same room, it could be your spouse, but it could be a networking event as well.
Yeah.
When you're in networking, when you're on especially on the screen, you're seeing them. So what they're sending out in the quantum energy field is saying, please do not buy from me, because it's based on their programs and conditionings and beliefs. When you get rid of that, when you reset that, you have this energy inside of you, who you are, and you resonate that, and you attract the people that you want in your business. It's not pushing them away, you're attracting them. And the same thing with our relationship. Are we pushing our relationships away? And that's where the divorce comes in. Are we attracting? Are we being present with the people that we're with?
Right.
And most of us are not present with our spouses. We're in our heads with our spouses. We're thinking about things that doesn't belong to us, and that's what we're transferring over to them, and that's what we're receiving from them. So I do a lot with couples as well, is that once they reset the things that don't belong to them, they have a choice if they want to be with that person or not.
Yeah. And I can see this manifesting itself in the business world. Relationships are relationships. I have been in business relationships where, in my mind, the situation, the decision or the path or how we need to work together is very clear. It's a no-brainer. And they're making a decision that, in my mind, is totally inexplicable. How can you come up with that? You have the same facts and circumstances I have. How can you come to that conclusion? And now I kind of get it. They just have a different, I won't say mindset, but a different
Program.
A different program, different scripting.
That's all it is. So, and you see what's happening with corporate America. It's the same thing. See, I just wrote a paper on corporate America and how our programs and conditioning, when you hire a person or you're dealing with a new client, what they're bringing to the table is their programs and conditionings and beliefs. It's not about the job. The job is easy to do because you've got the techniques and you got the stuff that you need to do. If you're a programmer, you program or you do your thing. But what happens is that you're bringing into your business as an entrepreneur or as working for somebody else, you're bringing in your programs and conditioning into that arena. So imagine you've got 20 people on the same floor. They are all programmed and conditioned in a certain way, and it's not the same.
Yeah.
So all we're doing is paying, and that's why we need our managers to manage the programs and conditioning of other people. Not managing the business, because the business is easy to do. And the result of my research is that they're in a day's work of now the 8 hours that we're supposed to be working, we're really working 3 hours. The others is all part of our programs and conditioning. We're doing something else.
Yeah.
So imagine that you can hire people for 4 hours, do really just the job of 4 hours, and you can hire twice as much people to do the same job. But what's happening is that's not what's happening. We're keeping the same person in a job, and they're not doing what they're hired to do because they're programmed and conditioning not to do it.
Yeah.
This is coming from childhood. This is coming from our education part. We have to be in a classroom and listening to the stuff that we do and blah, blah, blah. So we're not being present in the actions we're doing. We're in our heads.
And again, it's amazing things don't go awry more often.
Frank, I saw a report that, over 60% of new businesses close.
Yeah.
And that's not because they don't have the money. They don't have the great idea. It's because of their programs and conditionings and beliefs about it.
Yeah.
They're saying, the business, and I see it on networking events as well. All business is not that great. They're programming that business is not right, you're not going to make any money. Because at the end of the day, people just buy people.
Right.
But if you're not present in the stuff you're doing, why should we buy from you?
Yeah.
So yeah, and oh, it's slow this month, or it's the economy. So these are all the stopping of the programs and conditioning of what we're receiving from our media, that the economy, this is that. The economy is between your two ears. If you think you've got competition, well, guess what? You have competition.
Yeah.
When you're in your space of who you are, there is no competition. There is people that you want to do business with. So you knock on the doors and have a conversation with the people that you want to have business with.
Let's talk about veterans for a minute. I know when you and I initially met, that's a big focus of Reset It.
Well, it's one of the things that I'm really my grandfather, we're from Europe, we're from Belgium, and my grandfather went through the two wars, the first one and the second one, and my uncle as well, my uncle Ahmad did, and they were prisoners of war as well, and what I realized is that whatever they went through has a reaction in their life since that time. So these are the programs and conditioning of what they went through. And our work that we do is it's not that it didn't happen. It's just that the effect of what happened, you can change. You can change the event, but you can change the result of what you think about the event and how that event is controlling you.
Right.
Because I saw my grandfather, and he was getting older, and you could see that it had something effect on him. And that's one of the reasons why, that the work that we do, that I'm really interested in doing the work with veterans, because what's happening with veterans in all our society right now, they do their job, they come back in, but they're not taken care of.
Yeah.
They're left alone. They
Well,
were hired to do the job, they were programmed to do that job.
Yep.
And then they come back in and they're still programmed to do that job. But when you put them in our society, when they come back into our society, that program doesn't work with other people. Doesn't work with our corporate America. It doesn't work. They have to change the way that they look at it, but they have to reset the original program. Otherwise, they can't change it, because it's always going to come back and bite them in the ass.
Yeah. Well, and you see that with individuals who have spent a lot of time in corporate America, then find themselves in the entrepreneurial world. It's like, okay, nobody's telling you where you need to be. You need to self-motivate. And that can be a challenge for people.
Oh, definitely. That's I love what you just said, is that wherever we are, as the conditioning that we went through has a reaction. If you change your environment, that environment is not the same program. So you're not doing the same thing as an entrepreneur. You're in corporate America, everything was, almost given to you, doing your job, but now you have to look for your job.
Yeah.
That is a completely different way of doing it. So, but if you're taking the program and conditioning of corporate America and you're bringing it into your entrepreneurship, it's not going to work for you, because that's the program and that's the energy that you're sending out, and you're saying, please don't buy from me. What I mean by please don't buy from me, it's not necessarily buy a product, but buy the person. Because at the end of the day, Frank, people buy people.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. I tell people that all the time. All things being equal, we do business with those we know, like, and trust.
Yeah.
And that's not my saying. But all things being unequal, we do business with people we know, like, and trust. My insurance agent, I know I can get cheaper insurance. I know I can. But I know I trust that guy. I know he's going to go to bat for me. And I'm willing to pay extra for him to go to bat for me when I really need him. And I think that runs the gamut with respect to all the things that we do. You can find cheaper this, you can find cheaper that, but you hang on to that relationship. So
Yeah, and the sales part, the sales part of people trying to get, selling the price instead of selling the service or the person. If you sell the person and you be part of that person, that is a long-term business instead of short-term business.
Yeah. Let's switch gears here. Let's talk about the Reset It program. You know, how people can help you, how they can get a hold of you. And I do want you to mention the price, because I think the price is so attractive. I know it's, someone listening to this 5 years from now, it's probably might not be the same, but but in this day and age, you're pretty firm with your pricing, and I think this is worth checking out.
But when I first started this, Frank, I was a part of the coaching industry. I was a part of here in Montreal. I was teaching coaching to other people. And what I found is that with the coaching industry, they're working with a high ticket item.
Mm-hmm.
And when they present the high ticket item, I see that energy around it, and it didn't resonate with me.
Right.
And I decided to do a fair price that, everybody has to make money, but a fair price for what we do. I think it's worth it, so that we can reach out to a lot of other people. My thing is to get this message and people go through our program, that a lot of people, and that's where the change is going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
So our price range is, all my members of my team, we have 12 members of my team teaching this all over the world, and we all work on the same base price. We've got $340 US for our 2 sessions. Now, by adding this, is that some people need some extra support because they went through a lot of stuff.
Yep.
So what we added on to that is that we have 2 extra sessions that they pay for on top of that, if they need it. If they don't need it, they don't use it. Right. But it's based on that, and it's 2 sessions of 90 minutes. Why did we put this in? Why does it work in 2 sessions? Is that we're teaching people how to reset the things that don't belong to them. So what happens is that once they reset their programs and conditioning, their thought process is completely different. So they're learning it from themselves, because what we're doing is teaching it, the method, to them, so they don't need us anymore. That's the premise behind it. I don't want people to come back as a therapist and talk about their problems, because talking about the problems is just another program. Gotcha. So when they come through our sessions, they go through the 2 sessions, and if they need that extra support, that's where it comes in.
Best way to get a hold of you, should they go to your website, reset-it.ca? That's
the best way, because you got all my members of my team are there. You got people all the way around the world. Have a conversation. We put in places to have a conversation with our members of our team. Have a conversation. And if it works, fine. If it doesn't work, that's fine too. It's not for you at this moment. But what happens is that we're 8 billion people in the world. Imagine they are all resetted and doing the things that they need to do in the moment they need to do it. That's a beautiful space.
That's a great way to end. I really appreciate you coming on here today.
My pleasure.
Thanks for joining us on the Networking RX podcast. Please put what you've learned into action today, and let us know if you have questions, comments, or ideas for future topics. You can email them to us at podcast@amspirit.com. That's AmSpirit.com. Finally, so you never miss an episode, be sure to subscribe to the Networking RX podcast through iTunes, Overcast, or however you receive your podcasts. Now get out and network with someone.
The Networking RX podcast is the copyright production of AmSpirit Business Connection. All rights reserved.